Shalom Aleichem. This week is Parash Shemini, which deals with kosher animals. I'd like to share with you a few insights. The first thing is, if we analyze the common denominator of all the kosher animals, we find that they're all domesticated animals, animals that are not wild by nature but very tame. And that's what Hashem wants, because as we know, in the nutritional world, there's a saying, you are what you eat. And that is so much true with the meat. And Hashem didn't want that the Jewish people should eat the non-kosher animals, the lions and the bears, which are meat-eating mammals, which have in it a nature of murder and killing. And Hashem wants us to have a good nature, to have a kind nature. So that's why Hashem gave us the command to eat the kosher animals. So the kosher animals are grass-eating animals. They don't have even teeth on the top, just on the bottom, because they just chew grass and not violent. And that's what Hashem wishes to instill in us, that we should also be kind and violent. And if you think about this, I believe it's the Ramban that mentions it, Rabbi. If you think about this, it starts to make sense a little bit. The secular world, the non-Jewish world, with all the crazy murders, senseless murders that take place in different high schools, in different schools, in different settings, which make absolutely no sense. But if we understand that this concept, that the person is what he becomes, what he eats, so it's very possible that these individuals ate meat from animals, wild animals, that brought into them a wild behavior, aggressive, violent behavior that does not make sense for a regular human being. And thus, their actions, even though it doesn't justify their actions, but this is partially what caused the madness of their murders. Then we go into the kosher fish. The kosher fish needs to have the fins and scales, and the same interpretation applies to the fish also, that the kosher fish eat the higher vegetation and they don't eat other fish, so they don't have violence in them, have kindness, while the non-kosher fish lurk on the waters below and eat the other vegetations, the more bacteria vegetations, and also eat other fish. Now, the birds is something that we really don't understand, and the Talmud also didn't have a full comprehension, because there's really the signs and we don't understand it so well. And there's only a list of the non-kosher birds which we don't understand. There's a tanshuv, there's a yanshuv, there's a zniya, some of them we know, an eagle, but most of them we don't understand what it is. However, we stay to our Masorah, which is, we use those that our grandfathers and great-great-grandfathers ate all the years, which is basically the chicken, the turkey, and the duck. Those three birds have a Jewish tradition from generation to generation, and that's what we continue to use. However, when Mashiach comes and the Yonavi comes, there might be much more kosher birds that we'll find out that were permissible to eat, but it's not in our tradition. Now, there's an interesting discussion about the chazir, the pig. Because as we know, the chazir has one of the signs of the kosher animals, which is that it has split hooves, but it does not have malagera, does not chew its cud. There's a medrash that the Chassam Sofer brings down, and others, that it says in the medrash that it's called chazir, return, because there will come a time when it will return to become kosher. Mashiach will come, it will become kosher. And the Chassam Sofer explains that even though one of the animamins is we say that we believe that the Torah will never be changed. However, the chazir will itself, the physical nature of the chazir will change. That Hashem will make that the stomach should become a malagera, a few system stomach, and thereby, since it was actually physically changed the nature of the animal, it will become a kosher animal. However, there are those Rishonim that disagree. They say that there cannot be such a thing. There's no such a medrash. So there's a dispute whether it will be kosher or not. And the Mitzvah Shem HaMashiach comes, we'll find out the truth of the matter. I'd like to share with you a story regarding kosher food, which is brought down. First one that brings it down in recent history is Reb Shalom Shvadron in his Sefer, the Maggid from Jerusalem. He brings there that one time Rabbi Akiva Eger, famous Torah giant, was visiting a town. When he came to the town, so one of the mothers, one of the women from the town, went to the Akiva Eger with a request. She said her son, she has a son, a boy, who is very brilliant in math, in English, language. But when it comes to Torah learning, he's completely blank, and she doesn't know the cause of the matter. She tried many things, and she doesn't know what to do. So Rabbi Akiva Eger told her that it must be that he once ate not kosher meat, and therefore the not kosher meat poisoned his mind for Torah, and therefore he cannot learn Torah. And she said, Rabbi, it can't be. My husband is one of the rabbis here in town, and we are very careful at home. We're very strict with all food that enters the house. Rabbi Akiva Eger said again, I cannot tell you. I can just tell you that that is the cause. Ask your son if he recalls any incident. And she went to her son, asked if he recalls any incident, and he said he does remember when he was about 4 years old. He was one day going home from school, and he passed by a Jewish hotel, and the man called him in and asked him, do you want to eat a portion of chicken? And he ate it, him and his friend. And he remembered even the name of the Chatan. He said the name. And his father, the rabbi, went to the Jewish hotel to verify the story. And he asked him, who was the shochet? Who was the slaughterer, the Jewish slaughterer on that day? And he said it was the town slaughterer. So the rabbi went up to his house. He was already retired, the slaughterer. He was an elderly gentleman. He went up to his house and he asked him, do you remember slaughtering specifically for this wedding? And he gave the name of the wedding. And all of a sudden, the slaughterer turned white. And the rabbi said, what's the problem? Was it slaughtered properly? He says, yes, Rabbi, it was slaughtered properly. I just remember a different incident that I wasn't aware of at the time that I slaughtered, and that is that the Chatan was marrying a grusha, a divorced woman, who the rabbis held that the divorce was not done properly. And therefore, because the divorce was not done properly, therefore, the rabbis gave a decree that nobody is allowed to attend the wedding, and they said that no slaughterer is allowed to slaughter any food, any chicken or meat for the wedding, and if he does, it will be considered as if it is non-kosher. And this slaughterer did not hear about that until afterwards, and then so nobody really came to the wedding, and nobody ate the food, and therefore there's a lot of extra portions, and that's why the caterer offered to the children that were walking by. So the rabbi went back to Rabbi Akiva Eger and he said, yes, Rabbi, we found out that he ate food which the rabbi said is considered not kosher. So even though it was really kosher, but because the rabbis gave it a status of non-kosher, it had the same impact as non-kosher meat, and therefore disrupted this child's learning. And the rabbi asked Rabbi Akiva Eger, the Torah genius, so what should we do? How can we correct this matter? So he said, the only way to correct this matter is by sending your son up to Jerusalem to learn Torah, and there he will be successful. So of course the rabbi did that. He sent him up to Jerusalem, and he became a successful Talmid Chacham. That's the lesson that we learn from Parash Shemini. We have to be careful with the kosher food, and the kosher food makes an impact on us. There's many stories of many tzaddikim that they were able to taste in the food before they touched it. They're able to realize that there's a problem with it and withhold and not eat it. And there's an interesting, another short story. When they dug up in one of the cities in Poland, one of the cemeteries before the war, there were two bodies that were completely intact. One was the rabbi of the town, and the other one was from a Jewish soldier. And when they looked up the story, they saw that this Jewish soldier was always very careful to eat kosher food. And his non-Jewish peers they didn't like it. And they always were taunting him about it. Till one time they stuffed non-kosher food in his mouth, and his lieutenant forced him to swallow it. And he didn't want to swallow it, so he choked on it and he died. That's how they buried him. So because he died, b'mesirat nefesh, he was very careful with the kosher food. Hashem rewarded him that his body was completely intact even after many years that it was in the ground, because of the holiness of this individual soldier, his power to not give up and keep up all the halachot of kosher food. We be zoichet to Mashiach and to the building of the Beit HaMikdash. Thank you very much. Have a very good day and a good Shabbat.